We all dream of the freedom and flexibility of running our own business, right? But the reality is often a blur of endless to-do lists, late nights, and a constant feeling of always being on. I've definitely been there, juggling course creation, client work, college classes, and family, feeling like I was running on fumes and never really doing my best at any of it. We can't keep up this pace forever because our bodies ultimately tell us no. And we get sick with something small like a cold or sometimes something bigger. There are no magic tricks to figuring this out, though. No sneaky solutions that the gurus are keeping to themselves. The truth is that there aren't any productivity hacks that will expand time to be whatever you think you need. In fact, our tasks as entrepreneurs are kind of like fish. Just like fish grow to fit the size of their tank, our tasks grow to fit the time that we say we have. It's about creating sustainable habits. It's about creating boundaries that allow us to thrive both personally and professionally. Because your business should support your life, not consume it.
Anyone can add a digital course to their business. So what sets the six-figure course creators apart? You're about to find out. Welcome to the Digital Course Creator Podcast with Dr. Moira, a longtime entrepreneur now using her PhD in psychology to help you go from sticky notes to sales worth celebrating.
One of the biggest challenges for course creators is that our work, it's often right there in our homes. The lines between work time and personal time, they get really, really blurry. And this can easily lead to burnout and even resentment. My kiddo's bathroom is actually between my office and his bedroom. So frequently while he gets showered at the end of the day, I'll slip into my office to get a few things done. The good thing is that this means I'm actually finding the time in between the big stuff to get some work done. The bad news is that there have been plenty of times where he has gotten ready for bed and said, "Okay, I'm ready." And I say, "Just one more minute." And that, I bet, turns into 10, 15, 20 minutes because I was trying to get something figured out. When we work from home, whether that's in a home office or on our kitchen counter, it can be really difficult to disconnect from work. There's a pressure to always be on, to get things done. And as that happens more and more and more, we start to see our creativity tank, our energy levels hit all-time lows, almost like when you're a parent to a newborn baby who's getting up every 2 hours, that kind of tired. Work starts to creep into our vacations, into our personal time, if we're even taking personal time, and all of that impacts our relationships with others as well as our relationship with ourselves. If we don't want the negative effects of working 24/7 or having the opportunity to work 24/7, if we don't want those negative effects, but we do want the success that comes with lots of effort and time, what's the solution? Because I already told you, we can't expand the hours in the day. There aren't necessarily any true hacks because, again, we can't expand the hours we have in the day. Let me walk you through 3 things that I do to keep my sanity so that work does not take over, even when work is right here in my home office. First up, it is absolutely critical to establish clear boundaries, even when our office is just steps away. The home office, whether it's the guest bedroom dresser that lets you stand up, the family room couch, which is nice and comfy, or an actual home office, we have to remember the home office is not open 24/7. We are not a fast food joint. We're not a gas station. We're not a 24-hour pharmacy. We have to shut down the office. And I already told you that I've been guilty of slipping into my home office while my kiddo showers, and sometimes it takes over. I knew that I had to find a solution to that specific issue. And the resolution? I only tackle tasks during that particular time slot that I can walk away from if they're unfinished, or it takes so little time to finish that even if I'm starting the next step, when he walks in and says, "Hey, I'm ready to go to bed," I'll be done in a max of 1 or 2 minutes. These are boundaries. What can we do? What do boundaries look like in our home office space? It can mean setting specific start and end times for our workday or work slots and sticking to them. And I can already hear the buts around this statement. But what about the fact that my launch webinar is scheduled for 7 p.m. and I end my day at 3 p.m.? Or, but what about when I'm in the last push of getting something created and I have a deadline? There are going to be exceptions to the rules, just like in any rule. But notice when you start steamrolling those boundaries on a regular basis, that's a sign that something's really out of balance. On the days that you have a 7 p.m. webinar, maybe stop working a little bit earlier than normal so that you can still take care of everything else that you would have done after 3 p.m. When you have a big deadline looming, make sure that it's first realistic. And if you don't have control over the deadline, see what you can shift so that you don't end up completely exhausted when you hit publish or submit. Sometimes things can get shifted until a later date. Another way to create boundaries, aside from setting work hours, is to create a physical boundary. If you can, set aside a space that's dedicated to your work. That might mean a specific corner of your dining room. Maybe there's an extra closet in your house that you can open the doors and put a desk in there and your computer. You can use that as your office and close it up. It might mean something else entirely. You want to either physically or mentally shut the door on your workspace whenever possible. This prevents or at least slows down the creep that can happen faster than the kudzu grows down here in the South. So, physical place that you can maybe shut off, that you can close the doors to if you need to, or that you can say, I'm only going in that room or that part of that room when I'm actually working. And finally, I want you to take my own challenge with fitting work into small places and spaces by being mindful about the idea of slipping into your office just to do one little thing. One of the best parts of being an entrepreneur is being able to be present and present ourselves as present for the important moments in life. To tuck kiddos in to bed, to spend an evening with family or friends. We don't want to give that away. So we need our boundaries. The first key was to not treat our business as a 24/7 entity, creating boundaries with our time. The second key, not surprisingly, is about more boundary creation. As entrepreneurs, we are constantly bombarded with requests and opportunities. Learning to say no is an essential boundary. I get emails every single day that want me to do something. One big email that I typically get is I get requests to have guests on my podcast. This seems really simple, right? I get an awesome guest. I don't have to outline a full episode myself. I don't have to record it and edit in quite the same way. And the conversations are usually pretty fun. But there are downsides. Sometimes you have guests who need to reschedule because they're sick. Now I have to come up with an episode to publish at the last minute. Maybe there's tricky audio and video quality things happening that make editing take a whole lot longer than a solo episode does. And the list goes on. For me, a boundary that I set is that I don't have guests on my podcast unless I specifically seek out a specific guest for a specific thing at a specific time. Your boundaries might look different. I want to know, what do your boundaries look like for you? Where do they come from? And they come from a place of us determining our priorities. We have to determine what's most important for our business and say no to the distractions. Saying no's hard though, right? It does get easier with time, so start practicing. The second thing we have to do to be able to create these kinds of boundaries is to set limits on how and when we will respond to emails and messages. I cannot tell you how many times I've been guilty of starting my day by picking up my phone and going, I'm going to check my email really quickly. I'll dip in, see if anything important is happening, and then I'll get on with my day. And I bet you know what happens, because it probably happens to you too. Inevitably, an hour later, I am still in my email or my messages. I'm focusing on things that don't really need my urgent attention. And other things are getting put off until later, which means the time bleeds into other things in my life. The same is true for DMs. So choose how to tackle your tasks wisely, particularly emails and messages. Okay, third is something that I've already alluded to. I want you to be really selective about the opportunities that you say yes to. So this is another way to set a boundary. Don't feel like you are obligated to say yes to every single request that you get. The requests, if you're at the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey, the requests might be few and far between. You're thinking, I've got to take it because this is the only thing that's happening. And I hear you. And it might be the right choice. But as you get more established, what happens is these requests, they're like a snowball. They get bigger and bigger and bigger with time. And not just in the number, but in what you're being asked to do. It takes more time, energy, effort, time away from your own personal business growth. So you just have to be really thoughtful about what you say yes to in terms of opportunities. All right, so far, we've covered 2 keys to not working a 24/7 business so that we can maintain our sanity, so that we can still tuck our kids and grandkids into bed, have a date night, or just enjoy an evening with a great TV show or book. This brings us to the 3rd key, and that is to let go of the guilt. We all deserve a personal life. It is not a luxury. Repeat after me. We all deserve a personal life. It is not a luxury. It is a necessity for long-term success. I was talking with my son's cello teacher about how hard this exact thing is to have a personal life. He was saying that some of his colleagues don't actually take time off. They mentioned that they often get sick and that becomes their downtime. So their bodies physically say, you have not had a break. I've got a break planned for you. Fantastic. I'll make you sick. Now, as you might know, many musicians are also entrepreneurs, aren't they? They're piecing together different revenue streams from symphony positions to private teaching to solo work to contracts with colleges and schools where they teach part-time. And so it becomes a way of life to constantly work. Sound familiar? Course creators are the same way. And we can all feel guilty for not working, especially in the early years of business, because if we don't work, nothing happens. No progress gets made. I would love to push you to let go of the guilt. Choose time each day or each week at a minimum to just shut off the noise of business and relax. By doing this, we get to prioritize self-care, whatever that looks like for you, and schedule time for the activities that will refuel our mind and body. We can get the rest that we need to do our best work and our best living. We're always more productive when we step away from work to rest. And as an added bonus, we tend to be more creative and solve the really hard problems that feel unsolvable when we're tired and stressed and worn out. So remember, you and I both deserve to have a personal life. That well-roundedness of life is what leads to true happiness and satisfaction. It's not typically a single-minded focus on just one thing. So I want you to challenge the thoughts that you have about, I need to be doing more. I want you to challenge those thoughts and say, it's okay to rest. Your well-being is not negotiable. And it is time to take action with what we've been talking about today. Remember, progress-driven learning, it means take action. Don't just listen to the tips. We have to implement them in our life. We need to take action on the things we're learning. These key concepts that we've been talking about today, they are the foundation of a sustainable and successful business. What can you do? Well, implement one boundary this week. Choose one boundary to set in your business this week and make it happen. You can schedule self-care. If it's been months and months since you did anything nice for yourself, even if it is taking 30 minutes of quiet without anyone else asking you to do anything, do that. Block off time in your calendar for self-care. You can also, if you find that guilt is a real big thing for you, challenge one guilt-inducing thought. When you notice yourself starting to feel guilty for not working, actively challenge that thought. I'd love to know what you choose to do this week, because I do feel very passionately about the fact that we need to have this give and take between personal life and business, that we've got to allow for that ebb and flow to happen. Otherwise, we get really out of sync and unbalanced. And it's not that we're striving for this magical, some specific work-life balance thing. We're not, because the research shows that it's actually much more of an ebb and flow, a give and take between the life and work aspects. So what I'm asking you to do is really think about how can you create this well-roundedness in your life by thinking about what boundaries you put in place with your business. Remembering that in-home office, it's not open 24/7. Setting boundaries as to what opportunities you're going to say yes to, and then working on your mindset in terms of letting go of the guilt that sometimes we feel as entrepreneurs around taking time off or taking time away or saying, you know what, for 30 minutes, I'm not doing anything. Now, one of the thought patterns that comes up that I've been thinking a lot about is the if you don't work, you don't get paid mentality. For many entrepreneurs, income is directly tied to their time and effort. But what if we shifted our perspective? So a lot of times, entrepreneurs get started doing some one-on-one work. So imagine that we have one-on-one coaching payments coming in once a month. As the month rolls around, you get that new infusion, and it can feel like we're only getting paid once a month. But what if we start shifting how we think and say, you know what? We got paid for the month on one day, but it spreads out across the month. So even if we choose one day that we're not doing anything for that client, we're still being paid. And sometimes if we think about it like that, it does help our brains go, oh, well, I am being paid for today. It's okay to shut down for a little bit. If we build in recurring revenue streams like a membership, that can create more financial stability. It can create some of that. They paid me for the whole month at once or the whole year at once, and it spreads out across time. Could that shift in our mindset, shift in our interpretation of money, could that give us the freedom to take more time off without the guilt? Probably. Creator sanity. It's not an option. It is a necessity. Just like I said, we deserve to have a personal life. By setting boundaries, by prioritizing self-care, by shifting our mindset around work, we can build sustainable businesses that support our lives and allow us to thrive. If you are ready to dig in more to how you can be a successful entrepreneur and have a life, I want you to check out episode 229, where I share how I set and achieve goals as someone who is admittedly an entrepreneur, a busy mom, a professor, a homeschooler. I share with you some of the tips that I have found to be super helpful in creating goals that are doable so that I can experience success. And if burning out is a fear for you, because I know a lot of times course creators come from a 9-to-5 where they just feel burned out, I want you to listen to episode 217, where I talk about how to enhance your digital course student strategies, your support strategies for your students without burning out, because there are lots of ways to build an awesome support inside your business for your students, for your clients, without it just dragging you down. All right, there you have it. We can not expand the number of hours in our day, but we can use the number of hours that we have more wisely. I can't wait to hear what strategy you are going to implement this week to help maintain your inner peace or find some inner peace as an entrepreneur who is committed to not working 24/7. As always, thank you so much for listening in. If you found this episode helpful, please share it with your entrepreneur friends and colleagues who are building a digital course in their business. And be sure to subscribe to the Digital Course Creator Podcast wherever you are watching or listening to this episode. Until next time, happy creating.